I spent 20 years pulling strangers out of buildings that did not want to give them up. I never thought the building I could not walk out of would be a quiet man at a diner counter on a Tuesday afternoon. November 2009. Frost on the porch rail. 60 years old. Wrapped in a shawl my mother knit before she died, holding a coffee mug with a chip on the rim that has by now a small history of its own.
Ma'am, I knew who you were before I ever ordered the coffee. I knew your name. I knew the engine company you rode. I knew the small crescent scar above your left eyebrow because I had seen it in a photograph on the 11th page of a Tribune morning edition the year I turned 13. I just did not know how to tell you yet. I am sorry it took 14 months. I am sorry it took 14 months and a Saturday morning you should not have spent on a workshop floor.
That is a sentence I did not hear until the relationship was already 14 months old. I am going to tell you, in order, the story of how I almost burned down the only good thing left in my life, and how the coldest man in this town, a councilman who spent 5 years trying to take my pension away, walked into my kitchen at 6 a.m. and saved that good thing with a piece of paper he should have shown me 20 years before. The date on the clipping in my lap is October 14th, 1983. That is the day the rest of my life turned, even though I did not know it for 20 more years. Bellhaven, Georgia. Population about 4,200. One stoplight. A red brick courthouse with a clock 4 minutes slow since the Carter administration. The Honeysuckle Diner on the corner of Main and Pine. Neon signs so faded that at noon you can barely tell it is lit. 54. Retired from the Chicago Fire Department after 30 years on Engine 47. I came south to a clapboard rental with a tin roof, a screened porch, and a fig tree as tall as a Christmas pony because I needed a town that did not know my name. 7 a.m, red Georgia clay staining my knees. I am on my knees in the garden humming a hymn my mother sang in Mississippi, breathing in 4, out 6, the firehouse breath we used when we knew the room was about to flash. Retirement is the longest fire I ever walked into. There is no end, only the slow learning that no one is calling for you anymore. 6 weeks in, I picked up 2 shifts a week at the Honeysuckle. The owner, Della Boyd, liked the way I poured coffee without rattling the cup. Tuesday afternoon, May of 2003. The bell rang at 2:17. A tall man walked in. Lean, sun-darkened, silver in his beard. He took the corner stool, set a brass-tipped carpenter's pencil on the counter, and opened the menu like scripture he did not want to wake. I asked him polite if he wanted coffee. Fresh pot, just finished brewing about 3 minutes back.
Yes, ma'am. Black. And a slice of rye toast, if you have it. I came in last week and noticed the rye on the chalkboard, but I lost my nerve before I could ask. Tuesday seems to suit me. Quiet hour. A man can think between sips.
I told him, light and amused, that if he had lost his nerve over toast, he ought to avoid Wednesdays, because the chicken fried steak was the only thing in the building that scared me. He gave back a small laugh. the kind that costs a man something. I brought the coffee and the toast. He thanked me without looking up, and that, somehow, was the most respectful thing I had been offered in a year and a half. What I did not know then was that he had been in Bellhaven nearly 5 years already, waiting for a 34-year-old newspaper photograph to walk through the door of the honeysuckle. He came back the next Tuesday. By the fourth Tuesday, I had stopped pretending I did not know he was coming. On the fifth Tuesday, he looked up, faded blue eyes that did not push. He pointed with the tip of one finger at the small crescent scar over my left eyebrow. He let it hang there, careful his question about the scar never quite finished. Like a man holding a door open and waiting to see if I wanted to walk through, I refilled his cup. The pour was slow. I watched the steam climb. Silence isn't empty. It's just waiting for the right truth. That was the sentence I'd been using for 30 years to keep men from asking questions I did not want to answer. The chief of the 89th precinct had heard it. A Tribune reporter had heard it the night of the Pulaski Avenue collapse. They all let it go. Elias nodded once, slow, like he was sanding a board and listening to the grain. He did not ask again. That was the last time, for 14 long months, that anyone in Bellhaven came close to the truth I was carrying. When he left on the napkin he had drawn, in brass-tipped pencil, a quick sketch of my left hand on the coffee pot handle. The burn scar was in the sketch. He had only seen it for 2 seconds. Sunday, Mount Olive Baptist, the choir warming up for the offertory. Gloria Simmons, choir director, sat next to me in the third pew and elbowed me.
Meyer Robinson, who is that quiet white man been ordering rye toast every Tuesday for a month now? Della tells me everything, and honey, every man in Georgia is a carpenter. That is not what I asked. I asked who he is. There is a difference between a man's trade and a man's weight in a room, and you know that better than anyone in this pew.
I told her with the deflecting half-smile of a woman caught at 54 that he was a carpenter who fixed things for people and drank his coffee black. I told her he had weight. He set the menu down like it might break. He did not stare at my hands.
Peach cobbler at my house on Thursday. You will tell me what color his eyes are. That is the price of my silence in this pew.
I hid my smile in the hymnal. The choir lifted into blessed assurance, and Gloria gave me the side eye before standing to lead them. 6 months passed. Fast is the enemy of true at that age. He fixed my screen door latch without being asked. I baked him a sweet potato pie. He drove me to Atlanta when my sister broke her hip and waited at the curb. November 2003, I spent my first night at his workshop apartment. We talked on his porch until almost 2. He brought me a quilt. Nothing happened. I fell asleep in the Cedar rocker and woke at 5:30 with the quilt tucked under my chin. The next morning, I drove to Gloria's instead of going home.
Sit down, child. I made the good coffee. The kind I do not waste on Wednesday choir practice. You look like a woman who has been awake since 4. So sit. I will not say a word until you do.
I sat. I wrapped both hands around the mug. The scar across my knuckles caught the kitchen light. Silence isn't empty. It's just waiting for the right truth. I slept on his porch last night in a cedar rocker. He brought me a quilt. Nothing happened. He did not even shut the screen door behind him on his way back in. I told her what scared me. I was not used to a man who lets a thing breathe. I kept waiting for the trick. Gloria listened the way she listens to a choir warm up, with her whole face.
Then maybe the trick is that there is no trick. Maybe some men, by the time they reach 50, have learned the cost of being in a hurry. They have lost something, Maya. They have buried somebody. They have written a check they could not cash, and they had to live with the bouncing of it. By the time they get to sitting on a porch with a quilt and a screen door open, they are not in a hurry anymore. You give him the same courtesy, Maya. You let him breathe too. The Lord did not bring you down to Bellhaven for me to nag you into running. The Lord brought you down here to sit still and watch what walks up your steps.
She was right. I would spend the next 4 years half expecting Elias to vanish. What I should have been watching for was not his absence. It was his patience. It was in that same first year that I met Councilman Vance Drummond. He came in one Wednesday in his maroon tie and gold-rimmed bifocals, sat 2 stools from where Elias usually sat, and ordered coffee without looking at me. He paid in exact change. 1 sip. He stood. And then he said something I will remember as long as I live. His voice was cool and official. The pension board met Thursday. He wanted my 1989 incident report. No good afternoon. No thank you. He set the mug down on the counter at a perfect 90-degree angle from the napkin holder, like he was lining up a deposition exhibit, and he walked out. My jaw tightened. I felt Elias's eyes. I did not look up. I poured the next customer's coffee with a steady hand, because that is what 30 years on Engine 47 teaches you. You do not let them see the tremor. That evening I sat on my porch and watered the fig tree. 2 people were already standing on the edge of my life in opposite directions. One knocking softly with rye toast, the other with a closed leather folder and a date for a hearing. They were both, in their own slow ways, waiting for the same right truth. Early autumn 2004. I drove out to Elias's workshop Saturday morning to drop off pecan shortbread Gloria had baked. The garage door open, the sun cutting in at an angle that made sawdust look like gold pollen. He was at the workbench, sanding the armrest of a cedar rocker. Long, even strokes. Listening to the grain the way you listen to a man's breathing when you are deciding if he will make it through the night. He told me, quiet and without looking up, that he had known it was me by the step. I walked on my heels. Most people walk on the balls of their feet without knowing it. He said I walked like a woman who had been told once not to surprise a sleeping crew and never forgot it. I told him, warm, that 30 years of boots will teach a woman's heels to land first. You learn to plant the weight. You learn to feel the floor before you trust it. After enough fires, the body never quite forgets. He wiped his palms on his work pants. He looked at the chair, then at me.
Ma'am, I would like, if it is not too forward, to build one of these for you. Same cedar, same rockers. A little wider at the seat, because you sit like a woman who carried a hose pack for a living, and that means your hips need room to settle. I have the stock already. I have had it in the loft above the workshop for almost a year. I would not charge you. It is the kind of thing a man builds because he wants to know it is sitting on a porch he has not yet been invited to. And ma'am, if you decide one day to invite me, I will come up the steps slow, and I will leave my work boots on the porch beside yours.
I set the tin on his workbench. I touched the armrest. It felt like water that had decided to hold its shape. I told him, quietly, that I would bring him a thermos of coffee tomorrow. He could tell me what color stain he had in mind. I would sit on it while he worked. I would tell him if my hips agreed with the seat. That was the closest I had ever come in 54 years to telling a man he could keep me. Next evening on his porch, 2 cedar chairs that did not yet match, sweet tea sweating on the rail, honeysuckle stronger after the dawn rain.
My mother was a seamstress in Brooklyn, Sicilian. She came over in 1943 on a ship that lost 2 engines off the coast of Newfoundland. She used to say she had been baptized twice, once by the priest and once by the Atlantic Ocean. She kept a thimble on a chain around her neck until the day she died. She said it was the only piece of armor a working woman ever needed. My father was an inspector for the city of Chicago. He died of a heart attack in 1984. I was 13. He died in his armchair, ma'am, with his shoes still on. I knew the day. I knew the hour.
I heard Chicago and something inside me caught, the way a key catches in a lock not turned for a long time. I opened my mouth. I was going to ask what part of the city, what his father's name. I did not. He had already turned the conversation. He asked me, warm and redirecting, if I had ever noticed how honeysuckle smells different on the second day after a rain. Sweeter, more tired, like it is trying to say everything before the sun comes back. I let it pass. That is the sentence I have spent 6 years trying to forgive myself for. I let it pass. That was the question I should have asked. Spring 2005. My 3rd pension hearing in 2 years. Fluorescent light. I wore my navy blazer and my St. Florian medallion under my collar, where no one could see it. Vance opened his leather portfolio. He looked at me over his bifocals. Clipped and official. He asked me to recount the Pulaski Avenue secondary collapse, minute by minute, beginning at the first alarm. I did. 56 minutes of testimony without breaking eye contact. I named the 4 men I went in with. The 2 who came out. The 2 who did not. I described the angle of the floor when it gave, the way the smoke turned gray to black in 11 seconds. I told him about the burn on the back of my left hand from pulling a rookie named Owens down a stairwell on fire from both sides. Vance wrote nothing. He closed the folder. He said only that we would revisit it next year, and he stood. Gloria walked me out. She was furious on my behalf, in a way I could not yet afford to be.
What is wrong with that man? What did you ever do to him? 3 hearings in 2 years. 3. He is hunting you, Maya. I do not know what he wants from you, and I do not know why. You keep walking into that room with a straight back like you owe him an answer. But I am sitting in the next pew this Sunday, and I am praying that the Lord puts a stone in his shoe big enough that he has to sit down and take it out.
I told her, quiet and resigned, that some men only know one way to mourn. He was one of them. What I did not yet know was that I had named exactly the right thing. I thought I was being charitable. I was being prophetic, and I did not have the ears to hear it. Summer 2005. The diner kitchen at closing. 10:43 at night. The blue light over the back door was the only thing left on. I caught my reflection in the brushed steel hood. I looked older than I had remembered being, like a woman who had been holding her breath for a year and a half without noticing. Silence isn't empty, it's just waiting for the right truth. Said to a stainless steel hood. It landed like a prayer I was no longer sure I believed. I did not know the right truth was sitting in a manila folder 2 miles south, with my mentor's name on every clipping inside. I drove home. I went to bed. The next morning, I drove to Elias's workshop. I had no way of knowing that the next 40 minutes would split my life into a before and an after. That is, when everything in my life split into a before and an after. 3 days before the reversal, the Saturday morning that split the calendar in half, I did not feel anything in the air. No firefighter's instinct warned me. June 11th, 2005. He had told me on Friday he was driving to a sawmill in Macon for Cedar stock. Gone 4 hours, maybe 5. I was welcome to wait at the workshop. I drove out at 9. He kissed the back of my burn-scarred hand the way he always did and waved once through the windshield. I went inside to make coffee. The kitchen tin was empty. The extras were in the workshop office cabinet I had never opened. Top drawer, invoices, pencils. Middle, sandpaper. I opened the bottom. There was no coffee in the bottom drawer. The room went still. A single manila folder. The label in block letters, brass-tipped pencil. 3 letters, D-A-D. I knew in the space of one breath that I should close the drawer. The way a firefighter knows a door is hot before she touches it. I did not close it. I lifted the folder out. I sat down on the cold workshop floor with it in my lap. I opened it. The first clipping was from the Chicago Tribune. Front page above the fold, October 15th, 1983. 4 firefighters dead in Pulaski Avenue warehouse collapse. The photograph below the headline was Captain Leonard Hayes. My first captain. The man who taught me to walk into a building with my eyes open. Second clipping, October 16th. Inspector's negligence EY'd in warehouse blaze. A smaller photograph, a name in the caption, Clifford Hartley. The third clipping, the fourth, the fifth. Every clipping through March of '84 named the same dead captain, the same blamed inspector. Clifford Hartley, Clifford Hartley, Clifford Hartley. I turned the top clipping over. On the back, in the round handwriting of a 12-year-old boy, In pencil faded to the color of old tea, 4 sentences. They lied. I will prove it. E. Age 12. I sat on the workshop floor. I did not cry. I have not cried at a fire scene in 30 years. I breathed. 4 in, 6 out, the way Captain Hayes taught me on my first day on Engine 47. And while I was breathing, I understood 3 things at once. 1. The man I had been falling in love with was the son of the inspector, blamed for the fire that killed my captain. 2. He had known who I was from the first cup of coffee. The napkin sketch had been a confirmation. He had been studying me. 3. The right truth I had been waiting for in silence for 30 years had finally arrived in my lap on a Saturday morning in June. And it was the wrong shape entirely. I closed the folder, placed it back exactly, closed all 3 drawers, walked out, closed the garage door behind me, drove home. That evening at 7:17, his truck pulled into my drive. I stood behind the curtain. He sat in the cab almost 4 minutes. He did not get out. Eventually, he backed out and the headlights swept across my kitchen wall and were gone. I lay flat on my back with both hands on top of the quilt, the way a body lies in a coffin, and stared at the ceiling fan until the sky turned the color of a bruise. Day 1, Wednesday. I worked my shift on autopilot, gave a man the wrong change twice. 3 voicemails on my kitchen phone from Tuesday evening. I had not played them. I knew the voice. I did not yet have a place to put it. Gloria came in for sweet tea at 1. She did not order. She looked at my face 4 seconds, then reached across the formica and took my burn-scarred hand and held it. I had walked into 32 burning buildings. I had never once walked out of a man's workshop with a stack of paper that rewrote my whole life. Nothing had prepared me for the weight of that folder. Day 2. Tuesday night, I had gone back to the workshop. I had a key. Midnight. I crossed the dark room, opened the bottom drawer, took the folder. I did not steal it for evidence. I stole it because I could not bear to leave it, and I could not bear for him to know I had seen it. Those 2 things together left me only one door. Wednesday night. I spread the clippings across my own kitchen table under the cold yellow light of my one overhead bulb. I read every clipping in order. The '84 inquest had cleared Clifford Hartley posthumously of criminal negligence. It had not cleared him of civil responsibility. His name had never been publicly restored. Captain Hayes had been buried at Holy Sepulchre Cemetery on October 20th, 1983. I had carried his casket, the only woman, the youngest pallbearer, 34 years old. I read until 2 in the morning. I did not sleep. I still cannot explain why I did what I did next. I cannot find the moment my hand reached for the closet shelf instead of the phone. Day 3, pre-dawn, Thursday. The light over my kitchen sink was the color of a dove's wing. I lifted the hard-sided 1978 Samsonite down from the top shelf of my closet, the same one my mother had handed me the day I left Mississippi for the South Side, her initials in blue thread inside the leather strap, L.R. Lillian Robinson. I opened it on the bed. I began to fold. The diner blouse first, a chambray work shirt, 2 pairs of jeans, the pressed navy blazer for the inevitable next hearing in whatever town I landed in next. I took the small gold St. Florian medallion off from around my neck and placed it in a white envelope. On the front, in my handwriting, to Elias. I was going back to my sister Wanda in Gary, Indiana. $840 in the metal recipe box. I was telling myself I was being honest, not afraid. I was lying. I knew I was lying. I kept folding. The silence settled over the room, and then the doorbell rang. 6:14. The doorbell rang. I froze with the blouse half folded against my chest. Gloria had a key, and Gloria would not ring. I walked to the front door in stocking feet. Through the wire mesh, I could see a man on my porch in the gray pre-dawn light. Maroon tie, gold-rimmed bifocals, a worn leather portfolio under his left arm, a battered green accordion folder under his right, and in his right hand, by the rim, the chipped white porcelain coffee mug I had last refilled 4 days earlier at the Honeysuckle Diner, Councilman Van Strummond, on my front porch at 6:14, and he looked like he had not slept either. I opened the screen door. I did not say anything. I waited. He said, low and formal but altered, that he had returned my mug and asked if he could come in. He would not stay long. I let him in. I did not know why. Maybe because his voice was different. The clipped consonants were still there, but the temperature underneath them had shifted by something I could not yet name. I led him to the kitchen. The clippings were still spread across the table. The kitchen looked like a war room. He saw it all in one slow sweep of his eyes. He did not flinch. He set the green folder beside my clippings. He placed the chipped mug next to it. He sat. He looked me in the eye for the first time in 5 years.
Whose fire was this, Ms. Robinson? You have a stack of Tribune clippings on a kitchen table at 6:14 in the morning. Reading glasses still on top of the stack. A cold cup of coffee at your elbow. A woman who has been a firefighter for 30 years does not lay out paper like that for somebody else's grief. She lays out paper like that when she is staring down a question she does not know how to ask out loud. So whose fire was it? Tell me, ma'am, and I will not interrupt you until you are finished.
Mine. Engine 47. August 14th, 1989. Pulaski Avenue, 2nd collapse. The same address as the 83 fire, Councilman. Same building. Different owner. Same rotten standpipe. The city had condemned the structure on paper in 1984 and never followed up. By 1989, a textile importer had bought it for back taxes and reopened the second floor for finished goods. I lost 2 men inside that warehouse on Pulaski. I would have lost 3 if Captain Hayes had not taught me how to breathe in a stairwell 6 years before he died in the first version of the same fire. He said the names slowly. Hayes, Leonard Hayes, the captain of the 83 crew, the one in the photograph above the fold. I told him, steady, that Hayes had been my first captain. He had pulled me onto Engine 47 in 1972 when most houses would not take a woman. He taught me everything. I had been carrying his name on a gold medallion under my collar for 36 years. I had never told anyone in this town until that morning. He opened the green folder. Carbon copy memos. Pink. Chicago letterhead. Industrial Safety Division. 81. 82. October 83. Every memo signed in the same neat block hand. Inspector Clifford Hartley. The top memo read, You, Argent. Pulaski Avenue Warehouse. Standpipe system failure. Recommend immediate building closure pending repair. 4 memos, 7 warnings total. The last one, dated September 29th, hand-stamped in red ink. Received. No action recommended. The building commissioner's initials. The fire was October 14th. I looked at Vance. He had taken off his bifocals. His eyes were the color of slate. They were wet at the lower lid in a way I do not think he was aware of.
I have been reading these memos again this week, Ms. Robinson, with clearer eyes than I had at 38. I have had them in a steel box under my bed in this town since 1985. They came to me from a friend in the Chicago department who knew what I was looking for, and who knew, I think, that I was looking in the wrong direction. Ma'am, with respect, silence isn't empty. It's just waiting for the right truth. And I have been the wrong silence for 20 years.
I heard my own sentence come out of his mouth. I had said it 3 times as a wall. Vance was handing it back as an open door. He told me, low and certain, that the memos belonged with me, and with him, whatever him meant to me now. He slid the folder across the table. He stood. He did not push the chair back in. He turned to leave. He stopped at the kitchen doorway. He did not turn around. He spoke to the wall.
My brother's name was Marcus Drummond. He was 27. He was the 4th firefighter who died that night. He had been on the job for 11 months. He was a probie. He should not have been on that crew. The captain had pulled him in because they were short and because Marcus had asked for the run. I have never spoken his name in this town in 24 years. Not at the Lions Club, not in the council chamber, not in this parish. I am speaking it now, ma'am, in your kitchen, to you, because of him, because of your captain, because of an inspector who deserved better than the silence I helped pour over his name.
Vance Drummond walked out of my kitchen. The screen door clicked shut behind him. I heard his car start. I heard the gravel under the tires. I heard him drive away. I sat at the table a long time. The sun came up. Light moved across the wood grain, left the clippings, the accusation, right the folder, the exoneration, middle the chipped mug, empty. I understood that the man I had called my enemy for 5 years had been mourning his brother in the only language he knew. He had finally found a different one, and he had come in time. I do not believe in many miracles, but I believe in the kind that arrive in a maroon tie at 6:14, carrying a mug they have been meaning to return. I closed the Samsonite. I set it on the floor. The white envelope with the medallion was still on the dresser. I left it. I picked up the rotary phone. I dialed Gloria. Gloria picked up on the second ring. She did not ask what was wrong. She said she would come at 2 o'clock and would not ask a question until I was ready. I told her, quiet and firm, that I needed her to drive me somewhere that afternoon. I needed a witness. She did not ask. She did not need to. I hung up the phone. I gathered the clippings, the folder, the empty mug into a canvas tote. I washed my face. The crescent scar over my left eyebrow caught the bathroom light. I remembered what I had not let myself remember in 22 years. The scar was from the night of the Pulaski Avenue fire. Captain Hayes had butterfly bandaged it in the back of the ambulance before they pronounced him 3 streets over. I touched the scar the way Elias had pointed at it, with the finger of a man who had been waiting, like everyone, for the right truth. Gloria drove me to the workshop at 2. She did not say a word until the turnoff. Gloria told me to take all the time I needed. She had her Bible and a thermos. She was not going anywhere. I got out. The garage door was open. He was at the workbench, sanding the same cedar rocker. He looked up. He saw the tote. His hands started trembling, and he did not try to hide it. I laid the Tribune clippings on his left, the green folder on his right, the chipped mug in the middle, the way Vance had set it on my table at 6:14. I did not raise my voice. I have never raised my voice at a man in love, and I was not going to start at 56. Vance Drummond came to my kitchen this morning. Your father did not kill my captain. The city killed both of them and let your father carry the name. I have seen the memos, Elias. 4 of them. 7 warnings across the 4. Your father wrote every one of them in blockhand and signed every one of them. The building commissioner stamped the last one in red ink 2 weeks before the fire. The stamp said no action recommended. Vance has been keeping them in a steel box under his bed in this town since 1985. I am angry that you did not tell me. I have been angry since Saturday afternoon when I opened a drawer in your workshop looking for coffee and found a folder labeled D. A.D. instead. I almost left for Gary, Indiana, on Thursday morning. My Samsonite is still packed beside the bed in my back room. I had a St. Florian medallion in a white envelope on the dresser with your name on the front of it. I am here, in this garage, on this Saturday afternoon, because you did not lie about anything else in 14 months. I am here because the man who has been hunting me for 5 years walked into my kitchen at 6:14 this morning and used my own sentence on me. And I cannot afford to throw away the only 2 men in this town who have ever told me the truth. Elias put both hands flat on the workbench. He looked at the clippings, the folder, the mug, then at me. The crow's feet around his faded blue eyes had gone very deep.
I have wanted to tell you for 14 months, ma'am. I have rehearsed it on the drive back from Macon every Saturday since June of 2004. I have written it down in pencil and erased it. I have written it down in pen and burned the page in the wood stove. I never found the day. I came to Bellhaven in 1998 because a friend in Atlanta sent me a Chicago Tribune retirement notice. Your photograph was in the bottom corner. Maya Robinson. Engine 47. 30 years. The same engine company my father's last warning memo named in red ink. I came here to find you. I did not come here to love you. The love I did not plan for. The love is what I cannot apologize for. Ma'am, I drew your hand on a napkin in May of 2003 because the burn scar matched a photograph I had been carrying in a wallet for 19 years. The Tribune ran a small photo on page 11 the morning after Pulaski Avenue. Your hand on a stretcher rail. I have known that hand since I was 13. I just did not know what to do with knowing it. If you tell me to box up the folder and burn it, I will. The only thing I will not do, ma'am, is pretend I am not the man who has been waiting on your porch for 6 years before you ever knew I was there.
I stood there. I did not answer right away. I let his words settle on the workbench, the way the sawdust was settling on the cedar. I am going to go home now. I need a few days. I am not going to Gary, Indiana. I want you to know that, because I do not want you sitting in the workshop tomorrow morning, wondering if my suitcase is on a Greyhound bus. It is not. It is on the floor beside my bed. I am going home to my own kitchen, and I am going to think. Do not call. Do not drive over. Do not send Della with a note. When I am ready, I will come back through that garage door on my own boots. And when I do, you will know it by the step. You have always known. He nodded. He did not try to touch me. As I walked out, I heard him sit down on the unfinished rocker and the frame creak under his weight. 2 weeks later, the town hall would name a name it had not named in 25 years. A week passed. I did not call him. He did not call me. Gloria came over twice a day with food I did not eat. On the 8th morning, a Saturday, I drove to his workshop. The garage door was open. The cedar rocking chair was finished. He had moved it onto the porch beside his. He was in his porch chair, 2 chipped mugs on the wide rail, one steaming, the other waiting. I sat in the new cedar rocker for the first time. It was wider at the seat. He had known. I wrapped both hands around the waiting mug. Sometimes grace looks like a coincidence you cannot explain. I looked at the horizon. The sun was lifting over the pine line. The light came across the porch in a slow bar that touched the cedar grain on both rockers at the same moment. Silence isn't empty. It's just waiting for the right truth. I've been saying that sentence as a wall for 30 years, Elias, 3 times to people who let me. Once to a stainless steel hood in a closed kitchen, and then I heard it come out of a man in a maroon tie on my own front porch 4 days ago, and it stopped being a wall and started being a door. So I am going to finish the sentence here on this porch with you. Silence isn't empty. It's waiting for the right truth, and maybe for the right voice to say it back. Elias did not answer right away. He reached across the small distance between our chairs and rested 2 fingers lightly on the back of my burn-scarred hand. I did not pull my hand away. The sunrise climbed. A mockingbird picked up in the live oak by the driveway. I let his 2 fingers stay where they were. What I could not have predicted, sitting in that cedar rocker with 2 fingers on my burn-scarred hand, was the second sunrise already on its calendar 10 days out. The second Tuesday of July, 2005. The Bellhaven Town Council met at 7 in the courthouse conference room. Gloria and I sat in the back row. Elias 3 rows ahead. We had agreed not to sit together. Vance was the 5th item. When the chair called his name, he carried his portfolio to the podium. 4 pages of typed text. He looked once at the back row. His eyes met mine. He looked away.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I rise this evening to ask that the official record reflect a formal request from this body to the City of Chicago Fire Department that it reopen the 1983 Pulaski Avenue inquest and restore the name of Inspector Clifford Hartley to honorable status with full posthumous recognition of his service warnings, his 4 memos to the building commissioner, and his attempt to prevent the closure failure that took the lives of 4 firefighters on the morning of October 14th. I want the record also to reflect that for 25 years, this body, and the body before this one, and the body before that, accepted the public version of that fire in silence. I was part of that silence. I will name myself on the record as part of it. I have held a stone in my shoe for 25 years. Tonight, in this room, in this town, on this table, I am setting it down. The record will reflect that it has been set down. The record will reflect by whom.
He did not name me. He did not name Elias. He did not name his brother out loud. He sat. The motion passed 7-0. Gloria squeezed my hand under the folding chairs. On the way out, Vance did not stop at our row. He sat in his sedan in the dark with his hands on the wheel for a long time before he drove away. I watched him through the courthouse window. I did not interrupt him. Looking back, I can see now that Tuesday evening was the second sunrise of my life. The first had come at 6:14 on a porch. The second came under fluorescent light in a town hall, with a man I had spent 5 years calling my enemy. Both sunrises were the same sun. 4 years passed. The Chicago Fire Department reopened the Pulaski Avenue inquest in March of 2006. They issued a formal restoration of Inspector Clifford Hartley's name in February of 2007. A single typed letter on department letterhead. Elias framed it and hung it above the oak filing cabinet that no longer had a folder marked DAD in the bottom drawer. Vance Drummond retired from the council in November of 2007. He stopped wearing maroon ties. He came into the diner on Thursdays for coffee and rye toast. He always said thank you. Gloria's choir sang at his swearing out, and she told me later he ate 2 slices of her sweet potato pie and asked for the recipe. It is November of 2009 now. I am back on my porch in the cedar rocker Elias built me. Frost on the rail, the first sliver of sun touching the rim of the coffee mug. The fig tree is 6 feet tall, bare in November, but buds for next April already on the branches. There's a second cedar rocker on the porch beside mine, a folded charcoal shawl on its armrest. The shawl is not mine. I am 60, retired firefighter for 7 years, part-time diner waitress for 6, loved slowly and honestly by a quiet carpenter for 6 years and 4 months, forgiven without ever needing to ask by a man in a maroon tie who carried a stone in his shoe for a quarter of a century and finally set it down. The seed sentence I have been carrying since the night of the Pulaski Avenue fire is this: the sunrise that meets you at the end of a frozen grief does not melt the ice. It turns the ice into glass. You can still see everything that hurt you. You can also see, finally, the light coming through it. If you are listening, and you are past the age when people expect anything new of you, and there is a door in your life that has been knocked on by the last person you would ever have opened it for, I want to tell you, open the door anyway. The right truth is patient. It has been waiting for the right voice. Maybe the voice is yours. Maybe the voice is the one on the other side of the door. Maybe the way it was for me, the voice arrives in a maroon tie at 6:14 in the morning, carrying a coffee mug it has been meaning to return for 4 days. I am going to stop talking now. The sun is almost up. I can hear the screen door behind me, just the soft beginning of a creak. I am not going to turn my head. I am going to smile with my eyes on the horizon, and I am going to wait for the second pair of work boots to find the floorboards beside my chair. The end of this story has not been written yet. That is the point. Some sunrises are not endings. They are the first transparent hour of whatever you decide to do next. Thank you for sitting on the porch with me a while. If this story found you in a quiet hour of your own, please consider liking this video. Subscribe to the Porch Light if you would like to come back. Share it with someone still standing at a door they have not yet opened. I will be here. The kettle is on.